Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Continuing Education. I'm Diana Hinkle, and tonight we're here to talk about cilantro. Cilantro is one of those oils that we all know. First of all, we all know what cilantro is. Well, most of us do. Maybe there's some that don't, but it actually is a plant that's part of the parsley family that has a very high fragrance. And we're going to talk about that and some other things that you can do with it. So thank you for joining me this evening. And for those of you watching the replay, I can't even talk. Thank you. And please make comments, because if there's something that you're doing, we'd like to know what you're doing with your essential oil too, especially for those oils that we're actually talking about. So maybe you have a special recipe that you want to share with us, or maybe you used it for something specific and it did an amazing job for you. We'd like to know that. So again, thanks for joining me. Again, my name is Diana Hinkle. This is a Continuing Education, the first and third Tuesday of every month at 7 o'clock Pacific time. And let's look at what cilantro really is. Well, first of all, cilantro has a lot of aldehydes in it. What does that mean? And what is an aldehyde? Well, that's part of the chemistry of the plant. Now, when that being said, aldehydes are high fragrant essential oils like cinnamon, okay, for instance. So everyone is familiar with cinnamon. So it's a very high fragrance, and that's what an aldehyde does. It's also, in general, they're very anti-infectious, they're anti-inflammatory, they're very calming to the central nervous system. They can also reduce fever. They are, they're a tonic. There's a lot of good in that. But we're going to specifically talk about the cilantro plant. Now, when you start looking at essential oils on the shelf somewhere, I'm talking about doTERRA. I love doTERRA. I've been using doTERRA's products for a long time, and there is a difference. So that's on the shelf isn't always what you think you're going to get. A lot of your companies will take the whole plant, leaves and seeds, the roots, everything, and break it down. It's steam distilled, and that is how they're getting their essential oil from the whole plant. doTERRA doesn't do that. They separate it. They separate that from the leaves and the seeds. So if you're familiar with coriander essential oil comes from the seeds of the cilantro plant. That's the difference. So there's different chemistries, compounds within certain parts of the plant. And so we get from seeds and bark and leaves and flowers, we get it from all sorts of plant matter. So keep that in mind when you go somewhere else if you're not using doTERRA. Not that there's other oils out there that aren't good, just know where your source of essential oil is coming from. And everything I talk about here is not to treat, cure, or diagnose anything. I'm here to give you some information, and then you decide what to do with that information. And I'm really glad that I can bring this information to you. So cilantro again. Now, for me, the only time I ever really use it is my guacamole. So here's my cilantro. Okay, you can see I don't have a whole lot in there. I use quite a bit of it actually. And so I use 2 large avocados and 1 drop of cilantro. Now, some people don't like a lot of cilantro. That's entirely up to you. You can go 1 drop, or you can take and dip a toothpick in it, or better yet, if you don't have a toothpick, you can put your finger on just the residual that's up here on this orifice reducer. Put it on your spoon or whatever utensil you're using to mix up your guacamole, and that's probably all you'll need. You will smell and you will taste it, even that small amount. I remember the first time, sorry, my nose itches. The first time I ever made guacamole for my Mexican friends, and he's like, I smell cilantro, but where is it? It's like, it's the oil. And he was like very surprised for how little I put in there and then how well it tasted. And you could taste the cilantro. The other part of that is my lime, of course, lime. And I usually use 2 drops of lime and a little bit of sea salt. That's all I need. That's all you need for guacamole. Now you can add tomatoes and you can add onion and all that good stuff. I'm not that. I'm a plain Jane. Mashed avocados, little sea salt, cilantro, and lime. Done. And it tastes very good. In fact, sometimes it's better, I think, in some of the restaurants because I'm using an oil. I'm going to benefit out of that. Now, cilantro is also one of those that is really good for detoxing the body and detoxing in your metals. Cilantro is very good for that. And then I'm going to open up my book. Well, I got actually 2 books here. And so cilantro is very helpful for that. And it also, my page here. It is, you know, since we know it's from the parsley family, it's totally edible, right? And we know that it's 40 to 50% aldehydes. So it's an antifungal. But it also can be used for cooking. We know this. So what do you want to flavor? Are you cooking a lot? And by the way, usually 1 drop of essential oil is the equivalent of 1 teaspoon of your dry herb. So keep that in mind whenever you're using any oil, especially a high fragrant oil, for your cooking recipes. So if it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon or a 1/2 teaspoon, you probably don't want a full drop. You're going to want to use the method with the toothpick or with your finger on the orifice reducer like I just showed you. That's an important tip so that you don't overdo your essential oil and then you can't eat what you have just made. Okay, it's too potent. So just keep that in mind. We can use it for excuse me. We can use it aromatically, we can use it topically, and we can use it internally. So we can use it neat, meaning that you don't need to use a carrier oil with it in most cases, but there are those, if you are very sensitive skin, make sure that you test yourself first if you don't know. We like using fractionated coconut oil because fractionated coconut oil is it's clear liquid. They've taken the fat out of it and there's no fragrance to it. Okay, so you can use it for calming, because we already talked about that aldehydes are really good for calming, right? But that heavy detox for heavy metal, how many of you out there have metal in your teeth? Do you think you don't have a detox? Don't think you have something going on there? Because they've changed it. I come from a dental world, so this is something very important to know, that if you can change your, if you want to, don't have to, but look at the metals that are in your teeth. Change them to a white one if you want. They don't last as long, but if it's something you feel is a necessity for you, because some people are very allergic to certain compounds within that amalgam that's in your tooth, okay? So keep that in mind. when you are, you know, what is in your mouth. Okay. For a detox, you can apply it to the bottom of your feet, morning and night, and do a couple of drops. And that's going to help bring out. Okay. And if you know somebody, or if you want to do a foot detox, you can do that. You know, just put your essential oil in a pan of water, warm water, and you can actually put some Epsom salts in with your water so that it binds to the Epsom salt. In fact, you can put a little bit of Epsom salt in your hand, put the essential oil and the Epsom salt, and then put it in your bath water and just soak in it. There you go. There's your own little soaking foot bath. Okay. So it also can detox the liver, the kidneys, and you do the same things. Apply to the bottom of your feet. Okay. It's also very good for fungal infection. Fungal meaning, what do you have going on? If you've got, so most of us think of fungal being toenails, right? You can apply it directly on the toenails, and it helps with as an antifungal. Okay, so it's anti-inflammatory, it's antifungal. You can apply 1 or 2 drops also in a capsule, and for internal issues. Okay, so if you feel like or know that you have something going on internally, then think about taking this internally in a capsule. Okay, now if you really love the flavor of cilantro and you don't have a problem with the essential oil, then you could just put a drop or 2 in water, like a little shot glass, and drink it that way. But here's the thing. You're going to drink that. It's got to go into the esophagus, and it could burn the esophagus a little bit. So using it and putting it in a capsule, an empty capsule, is probably the best way to do cilantro if you're going to use it internally. Okay, you don't have to use it internally, but if you've got some inflammation or fungal issues going on inside, then you might want to consider that. But it's not a necessity, because when you apply an essential oil on you, you're actually getting an essential oil in you. It actually gets into the bloodstream very quickly, within 30 seconds. That's amazing, right? This is another reason why, if we have like an upset stomach, we can real quickly diminish that upset stomach by applying something on our stomach and having relief very quickly, instead of waiting for something that we've just swallowed or something else that we're just waiting for it to work, right? This can work quite quickly. Say that several times, right? Together, right? All right. One thing that I will talk about is like body odor. Now, I will say this, there's many times when I hear someone say, well, I kind of did a dumb thing, and I put essential oil underneath my armpit. Be very careful about what kind of essential oil you're putting on you under your armpit, because if you're using it neat and not using a carrier oil with it, then you just might have a really good burning sensation, especially because that's a very warm and very sensitive skin. So please be very careful if you're going to do that. Now, you can put a little bit in food, and you can do 1 to 2 drops in a capsule to deodorize internally. So how many people do you know that might have consistent bad breath? Is it because of their teeth, or is it something else that's more internal that you can't get to? So think about that. This is part of the detox thing too. So I know that sounds really kooky, but you really have to think about that. It's not always the teeth that creates the bad odors from your mouth. It's something else within. Maybe there's stomach acid going on. Maybe you've got parasites. There's all kinds of reasons why we would have an odor coming from our mouth. So if you detect someone like that, you might want to consider talking to them and let them know. They may not realize what's going on, and get to the bottom of it, and especially if it's their teeth. This mouth is the very first part of our system, which means that if this part is not good, the rest of our body will not be good. So think about that as you are talking to people or even for yourself, because the dental is really super important. Okay. Now, how does cilantro work on us on an emotional side? Okay. We think about things topically all the time, but cilantro is one of those that's, very, very potent. So that potency is like, oh my gosh, some people are like, can't get enough of it, right? Well, if you can't get enough of it, why can you not get enough of it? What's your body telling you? Our body tells us things all the time. Most of us ignore it. We totally ignore warning signs and little things that go, hey, the little bell's going off, but you're not listening. When you really love an essential oil, find out what it's for. Find out what it is emotionally, not just physically. So does it coincide with something you've got going on? You might be surprised. I know a lot of people that are. So I always like doing things like that, because they're like, okay, I get an emotion. When it comes to emotions are our number one reason why we have physical problems. People don't understand that. We get rid of some of those emotions, we get rid of some of the physical. I'm not saying we're going to get rid of it entirely. I'm just saying that we're going to go from like maybe a 10 to a 5 or a 6. Anything's better than the 10, right? So how can we reduce that on a scale of 1 to 10? So let's look at cilantro on the emotional side. It is the oil of releasing control. Okay. Cilantro facilitates a detoxification of negative emotions and debris. It is helpful in lightening one's load through the release of issues buried deep in the body, heart, and the soul. I could look at this way. I just tell everybody, says, you know what? We have this little closet back here, and everything through our lifetime gets put back there. Anything bad that we don't want to remember, it's right there. Okay. We think we're not going to remember, and we think that we've got rid of it, or we think that we no longer have an issue with it. We just kind of like close the door, lock it, throw away the key. You can't throw away the key, because at some point it's going to open. You're going to remember, and that negative emotion is going to hit you very hard, a little at a time. Okay. Those that are in need of cilantro have an obsession with control and over other people. They have a hard time with managing their environment. They want to hang on. They want to be the epicenter. They want to be at the top. So this is how you can let all that go. Cilantro helps you let go of all that stuff. So even if that means you take this and you take this lid off, and you're like, breathe it in several times. Do this all day long if you want to. If this is your oil and you love the smell of it, breathe it. You're getting so many benefits. And did you know that as soon as you take a lid off, there's an evaporation process. So when you go smell, those tiny molecules that you can't see are attaching to your nose hairs. which gets into the olfactory, which gets into our bloodstream. And eventually, this is by smelling, diffusing, it is the fastest way to change someone's mood or to change how we feel. So if you have those negative emotions going on, here you go. Okay, just smell it. So we want to get rid of those controls. We want to get rid of the toxic environment. We want to get rid of the obsessiveness, that feeling of being trapped emotionally. Okay, we want to cleanse our body. We don't want to be liberated, right? We want to be enlightened and with ease. So this is where cilantro can help us emotionally. How many of those things are you? Has anybody ever said that, oh my gosh, you just want to be in control of everything? Well, is that true? You just never know. So think about that. So let's repair you on the emotional side. Let's open that little door back there and let's start letting things out so that you can love life again. That's important, to love life for as long as we are on this earth, because God gave us the life, He gave us the breath that we have, whether we are good, bad, or otherwise, or whether we have physical ailments or not. There's always a reason for us to be here, and know that you are and have a purpose in life. What is that purpose? Maybe you need to help somebody else. Maybe you know a neighbor, right? Okay, so what else can we do with cilantro? So I gave you a recipe for making guacamole, because that's a simple thing, right? So here I'm going to give you a recipe for a couple of things. This is the diffuser blend. You can do 3 drops of cilantro, 2 drops of black spruce, okay, not black pepper, black spruce, and 2 drops of cedarwood, okay. That's an outdoorsy. You wouldn't want that, right? That's going to help play out roles of, what did you do in the summer times when you were a kid? Did you go on a lot of picnics? Did you go a lot of places with the family? Will that bring back some memories? Maybe. Try it and see. Because we want to bring back positive emotion and positive memories. Sometimes we have a hard time doing that because we want to think about the negative ones all the time. The negative ones really are not good for us. Okay, there's something else that you can do. So this is something that you can use in a roller bottle. So like use a 10 ml roller bottle, and I don't have one that size here. So it's 5 drops. It's called the Jolly Belly Rub, and it's 5 drops of cilantro, 12 drops of spearmint, one of my favorites, 3 drops of dill if you happen to have that. Okay, if you don't have dill, don't fret, just leave it out. 2 drops of helichrysum, and then fill the rest of the bottle up with fractionated coconut oil. Okay. You can combine all those oils in that bottle, the roller bottle, and then you can apply it to your abdomen and gently massage it in. Now you want to do it clockwise, so as you're taking it. So if you're looking down, you want to do it clockwise, not counterclockwise. Why? Because our system runs in a clockwise motion, not counterclockwise. So we want to go with the way of our system. Okay. Cilantro is a great essential oil, very powerful essential oil, and emotionally a very good oil to keep us in check and give us that positive emotion back. Now I'm going to, and I didn't get it, so I'm going to grab it here. I have some more. Where did I put it? I have to reach it. I put it behind here. Shame on me. Okay. All right. Oops. Okay. All right. I got it. All right. See, sometimes, see, I have books. I have this book. I have this book. I have this book. And I have an emotions book. I have a lot of books. And, you know, I don't claim to know everything, but I love being able to teach you guys that maybe you don't like going to do Google searches and things like that. Okay. And maybe you'd rather have somebody else talk to you about it. So I don't use cilantro all the time, but I do like putting it in diffuser blends here and there. In fact, later this month, we're going to have a diffuser challenge. I thought it was going to be fun. You can also, since you can use it for calming, what's going on in your life that you need to be calmed down. It is also, where am I at? Okay, so we already know it's antifungal. We already know it's detoxifying. It's also an antibacterial. So when you think about the fungus on a toenail, not only do you have inflammation going on and fungus going in there, then let's look at it at the bacterial level, okay? And then if you've got some issues going on with something else, that you need to know if it's viral or if it's bacterial. Anything like anything that happens, or you've like, you know, like colds or flus, things like that, or do you have something that's bacterial, or do you have something that's fungal, or sorry, bacterial or fungal? And those two will make a difference in what you're looking for as far as what essential oils you want to use. Cilantro is one of those. Now, a lot of times what you're going to hear is there's going to be a lot of essential oils that will do exactly the same thing, or they're antifungal, antibacterial as well, or anti-inflammatory as well. But here's the thing. If you don't like the smell of it, are you going to want to use it? Probably not. But there are ways around that too. I know someone that does that. Her husband does everything for her. I think that's great. But you want to use an essential oil that you like the smell of. It's that simple. And we are all made differently. So what works for me may not work well for you. And so no different than going to the store and getting an allergy medication. How many different allergy medications are out there? Oh my gosh, have you ever looked? And if you look at the ingredients, they're all have a lot of the same stuff in them, but they'll be just a percentage different of this one or percentage different of that ingredient. But basically they're the same thing, but each one does something different to you. So I might like Claritin D, where you might like Benadryl. Benadryl puts me to sleep. Why would I want that? Now, if I want to go to bed and go to sleep, it's a great thing. But if I want to be up all day, Benadryl isn't a good thing to choose. So we have choices. And it's the same with essential oils. There will be one that will work well for you. It's just finding the one that does. So think about what it smells like. Do you want to use it? So there you go in a nutshell. And by the way, if you ever get an essential oil in your eye, don't use water. Water is a driver and it penetrates it deeper. I promise you won't go blind, but you need to keep your eyes closed because you're going to tear up. You can use fractionated coconut oil and you can just close your eye and put it over the eyelid, 10, 15 minutes. It's going to go away and you'll be just fine. You don't have that, use anything, any oil if you want, or anything with a fat to it. Okay, now you might not want to put milk over that, but you know, they don't have much fat in there anymore. So I actually once someone had their got a hold of me because they had a child that got into the cinnamon, I believe it was cinnamon, and put it on their body, and they had a very red body, and it's like, put them in the bathtub, pour the milk over them. That's what she did. Worked. So anyway, but just don't use water. Water is a driver. Now, if you want it to penetrate farther, faster, use water. Okay. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you get something out of it. Please join me again on the 22nd, I believe. And let me double check that calendar. And it is, yep, I was right. Or excuse me, not the 22nd, the 15th. So we'll be back here again on the 15th. And we will be talking about Citrus Bliss, one of my favorite blends. So until then, have a good evening and enjoy. And we'll be right before St. Patrick's Day. Thank you again, and we'll see you at the next continuing education. Thank you.